All right, so I think we are the last thing between us and cocktails. So I'm taking that into perspective as we go through this panel. But what a great day so far, and glad you guys are sticking around. My name is Warren Kay. I guess my official title on the panel is I'm an investor advisor, which is a fancy way of saying unemployed in a certain way. So, but I've been in the local space for about 15 years now. And have worked with these guys for a long time, so I'm excited to have them on the panel and talk about how data and SMBs and the convergence and the kind of the assistance that data can provide for SMBs. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, and then we can kick into the panel.
Sure. Is this on? You guys hear me? No.
There you go. You can tell who's listened and been in the room so far by the way. Whether
Talk
they know
about
how the
an amateur
microphones work.
mistake. That's
Yeah.
really embarrassing. So when we were in the back, someone handed Warren that water, and they told him it was unopened. I promised him that was probably highly unlikely that someone was trying to get back at him. Anyway, I'm Matt Booth, CEO of Connectivity. I've been in the local space for a long time, for about 15 years. Started at City Search. I ran product and strat planning. We bought a ton of different companies. We bought Service Magic. We bought TripAdvisor. We bought Expedia. We bought Match.com. We bought Lending Tree. So we have a good kind of purview on like what works and what doesn't work and who's tried what. Some really interesting kind of learnings over the years. I left for no good reason. It was kind of like Groundhog Day. I decided, wanted to go do something different. So I started a company called Done Right that we sold to Lending Tree about 2 years later. I spent 5 years at BIA Kelsey doing private equity work and venture work and finance. And then 2 years ago, I joined this company, Connectivity, and we raised around from a handful of VCs. And now we're kind of off to the races.
This is on, yeah. My name is Anke Heckhoff, and I came from Germany to buy some sporting equipment. So, no, I've been in a local. I'm the VP of Channel Marketing at Closely. We're based here in Denver, and we're a team that's all about local. I have been in the local space maybe 10 years or so. I ran a couple of local directory sites for local matters with Perry Evans, who some of you know. And I've also worked at hosting companies, introducing small business tools to the small business users. And now I'm at Closely, again, working with small businesses.
Great. I'm Greg Goldfarb. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Flint. Started in 2011. I've been in this local space about 3 hours now. At Flint, almost 4 years, though. And prior to Flint, I was an early employee at a company called Ribbit, which was launched Silicon Valley's first phone company, connecting mobile and web apps, which was acquired by BT. And prior to that, Polycom for about 5 years, turning around the voice division. And prior to that, a company called E-Ink, which powers the Kindle today. That's my background.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So before you all talk about your companies, I'm interested to get your definition and perspective on the SMB that you serve, so the persona of the SMB. So Greg, if you want to start us off, why don't you talk a little bit about how you, and at Flint, you define the SMB?
Sure, yeah. So we have probably a little bit of a unusual take in that we've never focused on retail. Flint is a payments and loyalty company, but from day one, we were fascinated with the way that the workforce was becoming way more flexible and way more activity was happening centered around mobile devices. So for us, we tend to really, for us, our definition is they're businesses that operate around personal devices. They tend to be service-oriented businesses more so than retail, and they operate virtually on demand, which means however they can sell, whether it's in person or online, that's the name of the game.
So for us, small businesses are very different. For us, small businesses are the brick and mortar businesses that we all go to eat and have fun and purchase local products. So we target small businesses that have less than 20 employees and max 5 locations. So restaurants, retailers, bars, cafes, health and beauty, and so on, auto service shops, and so on. So that's what we call an SMB.
Cool. So let me give you just some perspective quickly on the size of the market, because I think people define it a little bit differently. According to the U.S. Census, there's 24 million small and medium-sized businesses in the U.S. Of small businesses, those that have a physical presence, some store that you could walk into or a service provider that will come out to your establishment, there's about 10 million. And only half of those, about 5 million, actually spend any money on advertising whatsoever. The other 5 million don't spend anything at all. So the segment that we are primarily focused on are not the Soho, not the single operators, not the kind of eBay sellers that do it part-time out of their house. It's the 5 million or so businesses with physical locations that actually have an ad budget or a technology budget to buy something. And primarily those businesses are made up of employees that have, or businesses that have about 99 employees or less, so less than 100 employees. And there's a segment above that in the mid-market size and the larger size that have a much larger group of employees, like enterprise companies that we don't target, that are much more sophisticated.
Okay, great. That's very helpful. So each of you have defined the SMB. Help me understand how your platform and your company serves that segment. Anke, do you want to start, and then we can go Greg and Matt?
Sure. So when we did our product research, we talked to the local small business owners and managers, and we found a couple of things. First, they are spending a lot of time watching the competition. Second, they are very interested in social media and how it extends their word of mouth marketing, because that's what works really well for them. And they really have no time. You know, they're busy making pizza pies and so on. So they have very, very little time to spend researching and learning and so on. So we built a tool that helps the SMBs watch their competition and also watch what is happening regarding their business in the social space. And we all do that via a mobile app, so that the small business user can do that on their phone wherever they are. So if they have a minute, they can look at their phone and they can see what the competition is doing. And what I mean by that is that what we found is that small business owners were taking time out of their day to watch the Facebook posts of their competitors, to watch the Twitter posts of their competitors, to look at their reviews, to look for promotions, to look for deals, to look at Instagram images, to look at Pinterest, and so on and so on. And they all have 6 to 8 competitors that they're watching. So they were spending a lot of time doing that and learning from them, learning about social media. So we've taken many of those data feeds and combined them in a very, very user-friendly experience right on the phone, where the small business owner can pick which businesses they want to watch, including their own business, and they can see the activity come through on a stream. So for everything that happened in the last 14 days, they can see, oh, this business is running a new promotion, oh, they have an event going on, oh, this is happening, there's a new review on Yelp, there's a new review on Google+. So it's a live stream of all that activity about their competitors and about their own business.
So that is really defining the title of this panel, that you're giving data, you're giving information back to the small business to help them understand what their competitors are doing. And then ultimately, do you see that evolving into giving them recommendations, or what is the next step?
Yeah, so what we're doing, we're doing a couple of things already. So, just showing the data is one thing, and it gives them an understanding of what's happening in their marketplace. But we also point out which posts have been most frequent, or which are most popular. So if they've been commented on the most, if they've been shared the most, we point that out to make it really easy for them to see that. We also show them activity stats, so very little stats, because it's typically they're not really that interested in stats, but we do show them their reach and their activity and their engagement, and they can easily take that data and look at that for every business to compare that. Now, yes, we are giving them insights into what to do with everything that they're seeing. So what it means is that if you have a bad review, we might suggest that you read an article about how to handle a bad review. If we're seeing that there's not that much activity for a business as compared to their competitors, we may suggest that they learn a little bit about Facebook advertising or about the companies that may be offering those services.
Okay, great, thank you. Greg, can you talk a little bit about Flint and how you're serving the SMB?
Yeah, sure. So really in this world where our customers, they don't have cash registers, they don't have countertops, they don't want to deal with anything other than their clients and getting their business done, and they've got their phone, their keys, and a bag or their wallet. And so Flint, number one, makes getting paid easier than ever through your phone, and that can be, we started with use the camera instead of any extra hardware like a Square or PayPal. You never need anything but the app to get paid on the spot, but you can also send invoices and get paid online, and you can also power your website with simple buy now or power e-commerce campaigns on via email or social. So that's one side, is super easy payments for, again, this new nature of business where it's flexible, it's running your business in the most flexible way you can. The second thing has always been about making it easier to improve your existing customer relationships and drive more referral business. And so on that side, part of our proposition, making it easy, was easy to get paid and easy to get access to data that you've never had before, especially if you're running all over the place, and sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's online. And so we make it really easy to run analytics to filter your data by customer contact, who did a 1-hour session versus who did spinning, and you can send campaigns back out. We also integrate with Apple Passbook for easy loyalty offers, so the smallest of businesses can get into the stream of digital couponing and offers in essentially the Apple Wallet and integrate with Intuit as well. So that's what we do.
When we were preparing for this panel, you and I spoke, and one of the things that you emphasized was the fact that you give the data that comes out of the transaction and that your SMBs generate is theirs.
Yeah.
Do they understand what that means? Do they care? Do they value it? And if so, how do they express that?
Yeah, I think in some cases yes, and in some cases I think they're it depends on the business is the real answer. But at the simplest level, and I'm sure people in this room have run into this, Flint was really the first player in the space to say, hey, you've got a photography business. If you take my credit card and I give you my email address to send me a receipt, the email address, we give it back to you. Other companies will say, actually, the email address belongs to us, and not only does it belong to us, we're going to use it how we deem fit. We're going to associate it with credit card data, and we're going to send it across the merchant network. And so that's one simple thing that our customers definitely do get, is just the ability to make it easier. And you see this in local business. They used to have fish bowls with, hey, give us your card, or do this and write down your email address, and we'll give you this. And at the most basic level, they definitely recognize we make it easier to associate what's really being purchased to an actual customer contact and have access to that data as easy as doing a Google search. So they get those kinds of things, they definitely get. We've had well into thousands of businesses using Apple Passbook couponing as well, which is another simple way where we leverage, enable people to leverage real-time data. So,
and they understand that, and that conceptually makes sense to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah,
that?
sure. So we've gone from, I'll just give you some quick stats, and then I'll give you just a quick preamble. So we've gone from 0 customers, 0 SMBs, to 126,000 in 2 years, paying customers. And the thing that I've learned about this market repeatedly, even though I feel like I hope it will be different every year, is that asking small businesses to do anything at all is asking too much. I have a great chart, which I'll, if anyone wants it, just send me an email and I'll send it around. And it's the amount of time that a business owner spends thinking about technology and thinking about advertising. And literally, it's non-existent on this chart. They are worried about employees. They're worried about insurance. They're worried about taxes. They're worried about the Cisco delivery guy coming in and putting the really good food on the top and not the other stuff that's good on the bottom underneath. Like the list of things that they care about is long, and most of the things that all of us are focused on a day-to-day basis, they really don't even want to think about. So we've geared the solution so literally you don't have to do anything at all. You just set it up and it runs. So we do 2 things. We have a customer insights package and a marketing automation package that sits on top of it. And what we do is we automatically create customer lists and Then we remarket to customers when they come in. So we set up a whole bunch of automated triggers. Once you set it up, you don't have to do anything else, and basically it just runs. And it's pretty powerful because you can build your customer list, you can market back to your own customers, and it all flows right back into the system. It keeps track of transactions and everything, so it's really apparent that it's working. Or on the downside, it's apparent that it's not working at all. So fundamentally, we're super focused on the things in local that we've seen be successful. And again, I think that list is very small. At IAC, we learned this kind of the hard way, is these companies that are in the infrastructure business, like that provide workflow tools at businesses, are the ones that have low churn. And these are the businesses that survive year after year. I'm a pretty big believer that you can go out with a great sales force. And Warren he ran the Chicago office in City Search. These guys could sell anything. Right, they would go out, they talk to people, you could sell them anything, but then a weird thing would happen 12 months later when the contract was up. They'd come back around and say, hey, you know, what did I get for this? So if you didn't prove this ROI year after year after year, you had this churn problem. But in the case of these infrastructure products like the one that we provide, it's really hard to rip it out. Like if you're OpenTable and you're in charge of table management and you make someone's life easier, like it's almost impossible to get that system ripped out unless, of course, you know, the restaurant goes out of business or something like that. So I guess, you know, what I would say is, for those people that are interested in building scale in this business, you got to make it so easy to use it, and you got to really think about, like, how do you set it up so that no one has to do anything at all once it's turned on, and that's it. And if you can't do that, you're going to have churn problems.
Greg, did you
Yeah.
want to comment on that, or you're agreeing?
No, I think basically providing benefits that happen automatically as a result of behavior that's ingrained in the business is a huge win, right? I mean, we hear it time and time again.
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting thread that I want to get into more detail about. You know, theoretically, and we've heard other panelists today talk about the data they capture, the way that they're putting it together, and the way they're presenting it back to the SMB. Matt, you know, and listening to our introductions, we've all been in this space for a long time, which either means that we're old and or experienced, or maybe both. But is there
or stupid,
and that too? Yep. But details. Is there a day where there's a data set, there's a way to present it that SMBs get it? You know, Greg, you said some do, some don't. With the churn within the SMB space, with the advent and the growth of technology being integrated, and the number of digital natives that are starting SMBs and running SMBs, can we get to the spot, you know, Matt, that you described, where you thought would happen a lot sooner, that they get it? AdWords is so intuitive because of the way that Google can take all the data presented and help you set up a campaign that's easy, or, you know, lots of examples like that.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a quick, like, so we did a ton of research at Kelsey about, like, well, what is it that makes businesses adopt things, and why do they do it? And there is actually a very strong correlation between the age of the business and therefore the age of the business owner and how technically savvy they are. So if you want to sell a new solution to a business, like with Flint, what you're probably going to go after are the businesses that are 0 to 3 years old, or 3 to 6 years old, because those are the business owners that understand technology, that are more apt to try and do things. The downside about that is 70% of all the ad spend and technology spend are at businesses that are over 10 years of age. So you're dealing with business owners that are not very technically savvy, and they're less apt to kind of adopt your solution, which is why you see all these kind of interesting things like Square creeping into the Soho market, because those are typically the businesses that start off really young, they adopt new technologies, and they're more apt to say, you know what, I'll try this card reader. It's not like that's going to go into a Walmart or something like that.
So for us, it really hasn't been that much of an issue because our app is free. And you know, and we do have over 90,000 registered users who use our app, and it's just for us extremely. We have an extremely easy onboarding process, so they just pick their business, they pick a couple of competitors, and they don't need to do anything else. So I agree with you. You can, when we asked them to do a little bit more, that never worked. So it's very, very quick onboarding, get them into the app, and then we make sure that we stay on top of them. You know, we provide them updates, we send emails, we stay connected with the SMB.
Yeah, you know, the title is data. the data that Perch or that Closely provides is really content in a lot of ways, but it's very aligned with the way a lot of these more traditional SMBs think, which is I've got to beat my competitor. I've got to do or beat what my competition is doing. I think it's a great example of the simplest form of data to help an SMB run their business. And albeit it's free, you still manage to sign up over 90,000 businesses in a pretty short period of time.
Just about 12 months, yeah.
Right. So I do think that's a great example of where if you dumb it down, and I mean that in a positive way, but if you simplify it, maybe is what I should say, that they will use it and they will get benefit out of it. Greg, same thing with you. The Passport's a great example, that they understand coupons, they understand some of the very kind of low-hanging fruit. Are there better use cases in the future where they're more educated and can use more sophisticated data sets?
Well, I don't know about necessarily more sophisticated, but other use cases that are data related. I think it depends on that. Like one thing that we've heard about that people like is the data that people get is data that makes them either look good, sell more, or save time, right? So, one thing we hear about with digital receipts is they like the ability to facilitate getting more reviews on whether it's on Yelp or other places like that, right? Because again, it hits all three of those reasons, right? So that's one. There's on the back office side, we hear requests, and we integrated with QuickBooks Online because we were hearing people say, and this isn't so much the 0 to 5 segment, it's more the 5 to 25 person company, okay, who's dealing with, okay, yeah, this is great. It's easier for me to get paid now. I got to deal with accounting somehow. Is there some way to make, can you guys expose data in easier ways? So I guess relative to maybe more sophisticated uses of data from that point of view, that it's integrating with other systems, which enables them to do more sophisticated analytics. Yeah, but I don't know that I necessarily see clamoring. We see requests for things like, oh, can you guys make some simple recommendations for what types of follow-up campaigns we could do? Because you're giving me better data. I can see more now. But to Matt's point, I don't really want to have to sort through it. Can you guys just basically package up, hey, okay, this is the group that you should go out with the April offer, right? And automate that. But I don't see a lot of, hey, I really want to sit down and really get into the weeds of this data in a more sophisticated way. No. I don't see that.
I actually disagree with you. I don't think that showing business owners data will help you sell what you're doing and will help you convince that they're right. And I think because you're dealing with individual people that have expertise in something like whatever it is that they do. So the roofer, the electrician, the automotive person, and you're never going to be able to tell them that you can operate their business better than them. And even if you show them data that says definitively, as an example, hey, you know what? Your ads in the newspaper, they're not working. They're not going to believe you because they're going to have to raise their hand and they're going to have to say, you know what? Everything I've been doing for the last 25 years is actually wrong, and who are you to tell me that? Like, we have definitive data on closed loop ROI. We can tell you exactly where people come from, who their best customers are, where they go, where else they shop. And we know that it's right, without a doubt. But when you show it to them, there's lots of times where they go, yeah, I kind of see that, but I really think my best customers are over here on this side of town. And I'm like, well, okay, but they're not. I mean, because we have the transaction stream, we can tell you exactly where they're coming from. But that's not a discussion that you want to get into, right? Even in the face of all this data that you have. So I think you really got to walk a fine line between, like, here's data, here's how we enable the business, and here's how we can help you do what you do better, as opposed to, here's some data and let me show you why it is that you actually aren't operating this correctly, and we can help you kind of fix what you're doing.
Right. No, I agree. And I think one of the things
now you agree.
Yes, I do. I often agree with you. One of the
5 minutes left. So.
Right. Actually 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Yeah. One of the things that I find really compelling about the three of your businesses that you've built and run is that you've simplified data to a common currency that the SMB gets. Right. So Matt, in your case, it's a customer list. It's people walking in and out your door, and more people like them. And Greg, same thing, and Anke, same thing with you. Help me understand, or the audience understand, where that's going. So what does the future look like? You found a few ways to simplify data, to make it digestible for the SMB, to help them run their business more successfully. For each of your respective businesses, what's next? Where are you going with that? How are you going to kind of express that to the SMB in the next few years?
I would say two things on our front. One is looking at automating some of the actual like applications for the data, like using the data to do something versus using the data to analyze data is one area. And that's one, and then the other is enabling basically an ecosystem of all sorts of apps that are working that are business-oriented apps to use the data for other purposes as well, meaning as part of other workflows or other app experiences. Right. So, because one of our core, we've always been out thinking about building an ecosystem, and it's a pure software-based solution that we've got. So those are probably the two directions data-wise.
So when watching the own business, we found that the business units, they're very interested in, the social aspect of it and learning what works and what doesn't work, and they're watching other businesses to learn and get ideas for posts and so on. And we think we can help them somewhat synthesize this down a little bit more to say, there are a couple of customers that are commenting a lot, that are reviewing a lot, they're commenting on your posts a lot. Those are your important customers. Those are the ones you can focus on. So we can help them with that understanding, that kind of data more. But not by showing graphs or pie charts or so on, but just pointing out what has worked for their marketing and maybe pointing out some of the most important followers and customers that they have.
So I have this friend that works at a very large company. I can't tell you what it is, but it's also known as the happiest place in the world. And they have all these data sets that they've tied together from the park and from movies and from the games and all these different things to figure out who users are and what they like and all these different kinds of things. And they ran all these tests to figure out, well, how can we cross-merchandise all these different great, wonderful things that we have? They send out like birthday reminders and happy birthday and, come to the park and do this, like all these kind of like offers that you'd expect. Well, geez, 20% off, happiest place on earth. I should go there right now and get free parking. And what they found was none of it worked at all. Basically none of it. No one cared about the birthday reminder. No one cared about the 20% off. What they found really worked was that when you could find that one thing that surprised and delighted someone that they weren't expecting, that's really what drove real loyalty. So like as an example, you walk into the park and all of a sudden they're like, hey, here's a free lightsaber. Like these specific things that an individual really cares about because they're a Star Wars fanatic, right? It's those kind of things. So I think like if you take that down to the local level, it's the same sort of thing. Like so out of all the data sets that we analyze, like the ability to let a business owner know that someone is in fact a best customer of theirs that comes in often, that is a promoter of the business, that has posted Instagram pics of very specific desserts, and they have a reservation at 7 o'clock. Like those are the things when the owner walks over to the table and says, hey, thanks for posting that picture of us and the great comments, really appreciate it. Here's a free dessert, and it's the dessert they love, and not in a creepy way. Like that's the kind of stuff that really makes a difference and really drives brand loyalty. And I think without those kind of things, it just becomes kind of generic, like getting a birthday thank you from Southwest Airlines. It's like, well, that's great stuff, but I'm not going to book a flight now because you wish me happy birthday. I think if you can't do those kind of things and you can't do it in scale and you can't manage data sets to do that, it's going to be really difficult to surprise and delight customers. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be able to drive enough long-term value to have a sustainable product.
That's great. So we have about a minute left. I did want to give you guys an opportunity to talk in more detail, just kind of in conclusion. But Greg and Anke and Matt, if you could, in 10 seconds or less, closing thoughts, closing remarks.
I think it's all about easy. That's about it.
Great.
No, I mean we are really excited because we feel like we see that the business owner is engaged, they're using it, the product, you know, and then I've worked with small businesses a lot, and, you know, you don't really get that engagement very often, and it's been so fantastic for us to see them come back and look at it and pick it up and open their email and talk to us and ask us questions and want advice from us. Has been really amazing just with this really simple experience that we give to them.
Yeah, so just, we're getting the flashing
Yes,
sign,
a
it says
couple
get
times.
off, so just real quickly, here's what I'll say, like we had massive plans at Interactive Corp to do all these great things. A lot of the plans that we had back then, they are things that are happening now. So we were right about the market, but wrong about the timing. And I think like really what's driving like this evolution in the market today, not to sound cliche, it's these mobile devices and these tablets that are finally out there that people aren't afraid to use. It gives you immediacy and interconnectedness with a business owner like you could never have before. I mean, the idea of not having to log into a computer to check a dashboard, forget that. No one goes to dashboards. But the idea of building an app that pushes data out to people, that's in something that they carry around with them, it's fundamentally changing the way that people interact with the services that all of us provide.
Great. Thank you guys very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Warren.
Thanks.